The alien woman proposed marriage immediately to the man who said, "You are very beautiful." Loran had always been careful with his words. As a junior cultural liaison at the Earth Embassy, he understood that diplomacy was more about listening than speaking, especially when it came to the first official meeting with an alien species. But all of his preparation, all of his training, went out the window the moment Commander Soraya stepped into the grand reception hall. She was everything the Earth media had promised. A towering figure with shimmering silver skin, eyes that gleamed like twin moons, and an aura of power that could bend the very air around her. The other members of the Veltharan delegation stood behind her like her shadows, but it was Soraya who commanded every ounce of attention. Loran couldn't help himself. He wasn't supposed to speak directly to her. He was just a lowly aide. But as she approached, he found the words slipping out before he could stop them. "You are very beautiful," he said, his voice almost a whisper. The room fell dead silent. He froze, realizing the weight of his words. What had he just said? A deep flush crept up his neck, and the murmurs of surprise from the crowd grew louder. The Veltharan diplomats exchanged bewildered glances. Loran could feel every eye on him, and he wanted to sink into the floor. Soraya, however, didn't seem angry. Instead, she stopped in her tracks and turned to face him directly, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if sizing him up. "You speak with sincerity, human?" Her voice was calm but filled with an ancient authority that sent a shiver down his spine. Yes, Loran stammered, not sure whether he was about to be arrested or thrown out of the embassy. The commander's gaze softened just slightly. She took a step closer to him, her silver robes trailing like liquid mercury. "Then I accept your proposal." Loran's eyes widened in disbelief. "My what?" The entire room gasped in unison, and the sound reverberated through the hall. The other humans in the room looked at him in horror, as if he had just single-handedly ruined any chance Earth had of forming a successful alliance with the Veltharans. The Veltharan delegation, on the other hand, appeared stunned but not displeased. One of the ambassadors whispered something to a nearby guard, who quickly pulled out a datapad and began searching through a translation dictionary. Meanwhile, Soraya stood before Loran, her expression unreadable. "Do you withdraw your words, human?" she asked, her voice quieter but no less intense. Loran blinked rapidly, still processing what had just happened. "No, I meant what I said. You are beautiful." The moment he said it, he realized how strange it must have sounded. Here he was, in front of an entire room full of diplomats and warriors, and he had just admitted to making a proposal, but he hadn't meant it in that way. It had just been an offhand compliment, a moment of awe. He was embarrassed, sure, but not regretful. Soraya smiled then, a slow curve of her lips that was both regal and warm, though still distant. "Then I accept your bond," she declared, and the room fell into a stunned silence once more. Loran's brain finally caught up to his tongue. "Wait, no, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't. You have spoken with honor, and the Veltharan people honor sincerity above all else," Soraya interrupted smoothly. "In our culture, such words are considered the highest form of proposal. The moment you spoke them, you offered a bond, and I, as commander of my people, accept." The room was still. The whispers had ceased. Loran could hear his heart beating in his ears. "I wasn't proposing," Loran said, his voice barely above a whisper, but it was too late. The court had already taken note, and the Veltharan delegation murmured among themselves in soft tones. Soraya raised a hand to silence them, and turned her gaze back to him. "Your words were sincere. If you now retract them, I will accept it, but know this, I will no longer hear them again. If you meant them, we shall begin our union." Loran was stunned into silence. He was supposed to be representing Earth's best interests, not getting tangled in an alien marriage proposal because of a misplaced compliment. His mind raced, trying to find a way out of this diplomatic disaster. And yet, looking at Soraya, unfathomably beautiful, wise beyond any human's understanding, he couldn't deny a strange feeling stirring inside him. He had been honest, hadn't he? And perhaps honesty had its own kind of power. "No," Loran said finally, his voice gaining strength. "I meant it." Soraya's smile grew wider. "Then we begin," she said. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions, formalities, and the confused chatter of diplomats who were still processing what had just transpired. As the event drew to a close, Loran found himself standing beside Soraya, the two of them surrounded by the hum of quiet conversations and curious stares. In the midst of it all, Soraya leaned toward him, her voice soft and teasing. "I am curious, human. What else might you say if you spoke from the heart?" Loran couldn't help but smile. "Let's find out, Commander." And so, in the most unexpected of ways, the journey of their bond began, through honesty, humility, and one simple, accidental compliment. "Let me know if you'd like to explore any part of the story further, or add new twists." You said, "The alien queen froze when she saw me, and I learned to reason later Crete a satory 700 word. ChatGPT said, "Absolutely. Here's a 700-word short story based on your title, The Alien Queen Froze When She Saw Me, and I Learned to Reason Later." The alien queen froze when she saw me, and I learned to reason later. I didn't expect her to even look at me. I was just a technician, one of hundreds assigned to maintain systems aboard the Terran Velari Alliance flagship, Celestra. It was a first joint diplomatic cruiser between humans and the Velari, and I was lucky enough to win a rotation on board. That day, I was fixing a faulty energy relay in the observation dome, grumbling to myself, when the door hissed open behind me. I turned casually and froze. There she was, Queen Aurelia of the Velari. She stood tall, her silver-gold robes flowing around her like liquid light. Her skin shimmered faintly, a translucent sheen over a pattern of glowing lines that pulsed gently with her emotions. I'd seen her on broadcast before, always calm, always composed. But right now, she had stopped mid-step. Her eyes, deep violet, ringed with silver, locked onto mine. Her expression unreadable. Her body perfectly still. "Your Majesty," I stammered, quickly standing and lowering my head, cursing silently. I wasn't supposed to be seen by her, not in a casual state, not without formal clearance. She said nothing. Seconds passed. I risked a glance. Her eyes were wide. Her lips parted slightly. "It can't be," she whispered. Before I could speak, two of her guards rushed in behind her. "Is something wrong, my queen?" She waved them off silently, still staring at me like I was a ghost. Then, without another word, she turned and left. I didn't sleep much that night. What had just happened? The next morning I was summoned, not by my supervisor, but by the Queen's personal aide. No explanation. Just, "Her Majesty wishes to speak with you. Privately." Terrified, I followed the guard to a quiet chamber adorned with living crystal. Queen Aurelia was already inside, standing by a star map. She turned slowly when I entered. This time, her expression was softer. "You look just like him," she said quietly. I blinked. "Who?" "My consort," she replied. "The man I loved before he died." Silence filled the chamber. "He was human," she added. "From Earth. Decades ago. We kept it secret. The galaxy wasn't ready for such a bond then." My breath caught. "I'm sorry for your loss." Her gaze didn't waver. "He died before I rose to the throne. But I never forgot him. And then, I saw you." I didn't know what to say. My mind was spinning. "I've studied your records," she continued. "Your name is Kael Doran, from New Lisbon Colony. Your mother's name was Mira." My jaw tightened. "Yes, but my father, I never knew him." She stepped closer. "Your father was Commander Elias Wren." The name meant nothing to me, but her face told me it should. "He was a man I loved," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He returned to Earth without telling me why. I searched, but by the time I found him again, he had vanished. I never knew he had a son." I staggered back, my mind reeling. "You're saying I'm his son? And you're... I am not your mother," she said gently. "But I loved your father more than anyone else in this universe." She studied me for a long moment. "The way you looked at me, the way you moved. It was like seeing a piece of him alive again." I swallowed hard, emotions tangling in my chest, shock, sorrow, and something else. A strange warmth, a connection. "Why tell me this now?" I asked. "Because the past is returned," she said, "and I won't run from it again." I didn't know what to feel, but in that moment, I understood something. I was more than a technician. I was part of a story written across stars and time, and the queen of a distant world had just opened her heart to a ghost from her past, through me.